Picture this, you are McKinsey in the early 2000s, a ruthless consulting company that values profits and revenue above all else. You've just landed the perfect client, Purdue Pharma. Purdue deals in one of the world's most addictive and lucrative substances, opioid drugs like OxyContin. Imagine marketing and selling something on the same level as heroin, but legally. That's precisely the business Purdue is in, and you, McKinsey, have just been hired to enhance their sales. A match made in heaven. Both sides are prepared to take extreme measures to boost their profits. Your sales tactics are so effective that in the next 2 decades, hundreds of thousands of lives will be lost to opioid overdoses. With soaring sales, Purdue reaps the profits and you collect your consulting fees. Your client essentially profits from addiction, much like a drug dealer, except drug dealers face jail time. But because you are a well-connected corporation, all you need to do is issue an apology and pay a $600 million fine. And you'd do it all again. This is McKinsey, the most evil consulting company on the planet. And this is how they executed their plan. For those of you who are unaware of what McKinsey is all about and of its origins, here's a quick rundown of it all. McKinsey is a world-renowned consulting company that has been providing innovative solutions to complex business challenges for nearly a century. With over 100 offices in more than 60 countries and a team of more than 30,000 professionals, McKinsey has established itself as a leader in the consulting industry. McKinsey, though, has been under criticism because of its association with Purdue Pharma, the pharmaceutical business that has been accused of contributing to one of the biggest and most scandalous opioid crises in the United States. So, because of McKinsey's involvement in Purdue Pharma's legal battle, the company's unsavory advisory services are now widely known. As with any consulting company, McKinsey has been embroiled in its fair share of scandals. It is also worth mentioning that McKinsey has recently been under fire for its alleged complicity with Trump's anti-immigrant policies, as the US Department of Homeland Security hired the consultancy business to assist with the implementation of the controversial family separation program at the US-Mexico border. The role McKinsey played in the financial catastrophe of 2008 has also been questioned. Here, the company was blamed for the financial crisis because it was said to have given bad advice to financial institutions regarding risk management. McKinsey's involvement in the KPMG corruption scandal in South Africa highlighted the company's association with the controversial Gupta family through their partnership with Trillion Capital Partners. Hired to provide consulting services for the state-owned power utility Eskom, McKinsey faced public outrage and scrutiny due to the excessive fees and Trillion's questionable role in the contract. In response, McKinsey apologized, returned the fees received from Eskom, conducted an internal investigation, and took steps to improve due diligence processes to prevent future incidents. But perhaps the most significant controversy involving McKinsey is their involvement in the opioid crisis in the United States. As a consulting company, McKinsey provided services to Purdue Pharma, the pharmaceutical company responsible for producing the highly addictive painkiller OxyContin. The drug has been linked to the opioid epidemic in America, which has claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. OxyContin was originally developed in 1995 by Purdue Pharma, a pharmaceutical company based in Stamford, Connecticut, specifically targeting the medication for patients experiencing chronic pain due to cancer. Yet, Purdue Pharma's initial advertising campaigns and false information about addiction have contributed to the current opioid crisis in the United States.
There's no question that our best, strongest pain medicines are the opioids. But these are the same drugs that have a reputation for causing addiction and other terrible things. Now, in fact, the rate of addiction amongst pain patients who are treated by doctors is much less than 1%.
However, this claim was later proven to be false, as the drug's extended release formula actually made it more potent and addictive. Now, it's quite hard to believe that a consulting company like McKinsey, known for advising some of the world's top companies, could have been involved in one of the most devastating public health crises in modern history. But the truth is, McKinsey was hired by Purdue Pharma to help boost sales of OxyContin. By working with Purdue Pharma, McKinsey reportedly advised the company on how to avoid FDA restrictions and keep pharmacies on board, despite the rising number of overdoses and deaths related to OxyContin. Additionally, the consulting firm reportedly suggested that Purdue Pharma offer rebates to pharmacies based on the number of overdoses and addiction incidents tied to the prescribed opioids. This controversial recommendation aimed to counteract the financial impact of these events on pharmacies and incentivize them to continue prescribing OxyContin. Whereas it's easy to see how a company like Purdue Pharma, driven by profits, could have been blinded to the potential risks of OxyContin. McKinsey's involvement is particularly troubling, given the company's reputation for providing expert advice to clients. On the other hand, when the allegations against Purdue Pharma and McKinsey came to light, McKinsey attempted to distance itself from the scandal and destroy any incriminating evidence. But despite these efforts, McKinsey was eventually held accountable for its role in the crisis. The consulting company was slapped with a relatively small $600 million fine, and a request to stay out of the opioid industry. Similarly, the company faced a flurry of lawsuits, legal consequences, and public outrage over its role in the opioid epidemic. And while Purdue Pharma was forced to shut down and pay billions in reparations, McKinsey was also held accountable for its involvement in the scandal. At this point, considering what happened and the number of lives that were subjected to such tyranny, the consulting industry seems to be no stranger to controversy. And while the field is often associated with innovative problem-solving and cutting-edge business strategies, there is also a darker side to consulting, where profits take precedence over public well-being. And nowhere is this more apparent than in the case of McKinsey's involvement in the opioid crisis. Additionally, despite the devastating impact of the crisis, one certainly cannot shy away from the fact that McKinsey allegedly worked hand-in-hand with Purdue Pharma to boost OxyContin sales, all while downplaying the drug's addictive properties and misleading doctors and the public. Of course, the result was a public health catastrophe that claimed thousands of lives and devastated countless communities. And yet, even as the fallout from the opioid crisis continues to have an impact, McKinsey continues to flourish. In fact, some have even accused the company of profiting from the rehabilitation industry, demonstrating that their commitment to profit remains unshaken. Honestly, it's a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked capitalism when it comes to companies like McKinsey and Purdue Pharma, where the pursuit of profit can come at the expense of public health and well-being. It also highlights the need for consultants to carefully consider the potential social and public health implications of the advice they provide. It would be quite fair to say that the impact of McKinsey's actions on society cannot be overstated. The company's involvement in the opioid crisis, for example, has had devastating consequences for millions of Americans. And yet, despite the scale of the crisis, McKinsey has largely escaped accountability, with only a relatively small fine and a request to stay out of the opioid industry. Of course, this then underscores the urgent need for greater transparency and accountability in the consulting industry, to ensure that companies are held responsible for the impact of their actions on society. Additionally, this raises important ethical questions for the consulting profession more broadly, and underscores the need for consultants to prioritize ethical considerations in their work. Ultimately, consultants must ensure that their advice aligns with their values and contributes to the greater good, rather than simply pursuing profit at any cost. Having said that, if you did enjoy today's video, do give it a thumbs up while clicking on the subscribe button to stay updated for future content. Until next time, stay healthy, stay focused, and stay tuned.